Hello everybody, sorry for the lack of uploads. It's been incredibly hot, and due to the heat wave and the fact my computer generates a lot of heat, I haven't really been able to go on my computer without it either crashing or don't really want to be near it, because I don't want to melt in 35, 34 degree Celsius heat. Just not really what I want to do, to be honest. And plus with heat, I just can't really concentrate on just kind of making valid points on the music I listen to, so I felt it was a better idea just to kind of weigh it out. Matter of fact, when I was doing the June albums of the month video, I was exhausted because it was hot when I was editing it, but I had to get it done, and I'm happy it's out of the way because now I can just go back to talking about regular stuff until July's one. So, but luckily there hasn't really been as much stuff announced for July, so I'm not too worried about kind of the album of the month for that. It might be even shorter than the June one, which didn't really have much either that I wanted to talk about. But anywho, let's go into Split Chain's motionblur. So Split Chain is an alternative metal band blending in shoegaze elements and I guess a little bit of grunge, kind of falling into the grunge gaze category of bands like Fleshwater and Narrowhead, bringing in kind of these more alternative metal guitars while giving you this more ethereal aesthetic. A lot of ambience to kind of provide this very lucid flow into the whole aesthetic that the band's going for, and this sound has probably been done to death by a lot of bands. There's so many bands that are just emerging out of the scene doing it, and often I've just generally had there's some good stuff. For example, Bleed, thought it was decent, weren't a big fan of it, but it was alright. Then you have bands like Super Heaven doing something similar, and you even had ASkySoBlack, probably one of the better examples of a band debuting and doing it. But Split Chain to me probably has the best kind of sound in this direction, unless you really want to consider what Thornhill's Bodies was as an album, even though I kind of feel like that leans more into just metalcore rather than the alternative shoegaze direction that one went for, even if it's kind of sort of hard-coded into the DNA of their modern sound. But Split Chain probably is the one that has this sound from the get-go. This is generally all the stuff that they've been training with. They've released a few singles before starting to release this album. One of my favourites was Future. This one just stood out to me quite a lot. And they even had a Type of Negative cover, which I generally think is pretty damn good, to be honest, and I've not really been disappointed with what I've listened to. But motionblur, it finally is here, and I must say the album holds up really nice in my opinion. Got a lot of energy. I love the aggression in tracks like I'm Not Dying to Be Here, which the whole song just has this very heavyweight flow into the vocals while also incorporating just this absolutely nice hard hitting riff throughout, and I feel like all the components to this one create probably one of the more versatile tracks on the record. And this was the lead single as well, so I was really impressed from the beginning of the album cycle of releasing the singles for this. A lot of fun stuff, to be honest, and I generally feel like the refrains work great. Rookie's energy, the hard hitting sound it has is lovely. Under the Wire just kind of dives you straight into the kind of classic basic structure of their sound, and that honestly works quite well, to be honest. And this is the type of stuff a lot of bands have been doing. As I said, it's been kind of the norm. A lot of bands like ASkySoBlack has been doing this, and it kind of probably would lose a lot of people the more you see this happen. But I feel like Split Chain do it in an interesting way that it's generally got their own kind of sound into it. It definitely feels like something I've heard before, but I can identify it with Split Chain straight away, so I feel like they're kind of putting their own little spin on it, whereas other bands kind of just make the sound and don't really bring much to the table. So I gotta commend Split Chain for kind of, while recycling elements of it, they still bring in something refreshing to it, and the whole album has this great flow from either a heavier hitting track or just a track that just kind of balances a genuine direct component to something that could be on Diamond Eyes or Koi no Yokan by Deftones. I can generally feel that, to be honest. But I don't stop trying to say the same word, but I do absolutely like it. I feel like this brings some of the best sounds that the band has been kind of trying to work up. At the same time, probably some songs that I feel like don't necessarily need to be here. Luckily the album isn't as long, but my biggest gripe with this has to be the repetition in terms of sound. I like what they do, and there's a lot of fun ideas, and there's some great melodies, great riffs, but it just feels like it does the same thing, and once you kind of go to the second half, you'll probably see what I mean. And I feel if it went on any longer, I think the album would probably be seen in a weaker light. But once we got to My Mistake, I like the kind of slower build to this one, excel the energy, and then kind of ooze off into the sunset. And that's the album done. There's a lot of great ideas they kind of put the spin on, and I feel with a lot of the tracks we have here, the space in between, probably being one of my least favourites, still has some tremendous moments. I like when I just like when the Uncleans kind of summon out towards the end, and it generally lifts up the song where I thought it would kind of be a bit dull, just kind of one of the more redundant tracks. But I feel like everything we have here is solid enough to constitute for a great record. And Split Chain, this is their first album that just their first album in general, and I like it a lot, and I think this is a good step. But the only issue is, I feel now that we've kind of had something that we're quite familiar with, and they don't really necessarily have as much distinction between the tracks, I'm hoping album number 2 does work on that feature, because otherwise we're probably going to get Split Chain releasing the same songs and same style, and it will probably get a little bit annoying at that point. But for what we have so far, even if a lot of it's similar, I like it. It's just it is just a fun album in general. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5. It's quite a lot of fun. It's pretty much one of the more engaging alternative metal albums of the year, and that's pretty much what I have to say. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.